Hi everybody, thank you for joining me today. So for this week's video for the members room, we're going to be focusing on watercolors. And there's a lot of different products, and I'm sure there's a lot of products I don't even really touch, but I'm trying to go through as many as we can. These are the Real Brush Zig markers, color pencils of course, or watercolor pencils, excuse me. We have a regular traditional color palette, watercolor palette, our Ranger Distress inks, oil pastels, and then this is just a bigger watercolor. I'm not going to actually use this one in this video. I just wanted to show you another form of watercolor. And then the last thing is Prima, the watercolor pencils. I believe this album is now closed because they discontinued the ones that we had in the shop, but I'm still going to show you them anyway. So lined up a bunch of those flowers using the VersaFine Black Onyx ink, and the colors that I have here I really wasn't interested in using at the moment, so I'm grabbing one of my other color pencils. And I'm just going to show you real quick. All I do is color in where I want the shadow or the most color, and then from what I've colored, I usually take a water brush. You can see the water in there, and I just, move the color around. You can also use a regular paintbrush, but for our purposes, we're just going to use the water brush. And later on, I'll show you how to use the sparkle pens. Okay, so we're just going to very quickly just pull the water from the brush, let that move the color along the actual picture itself. And then while it's wet, you can go back over and add color, make it darker. On this particular watercolor paper, which is the Tim Holtz Distress watercolor paper, this paper has a smooth side and a rough side. And right now we're on the rough side. So when you use it, when you go to color, it'll kind of show the bumps. But the main thing is, one, to keep working it, and to two, if you can, try not to oversaturate it. That's why I was using the tissue to try and take some of the moisture away. And what I did there, because of the way the water, I had put too much water down, I just wound up really coloring in most of that section with the color pencil. And for the most part, with the color pencils, I keep saying color pencils, these are definitely watercolor pencils. If you lay down a regular color pencil, you cannot move it with water. A regular color pencil is wax based, so it's not going to move, okay? So please, if I keep saying color pencil, just remember we're working with watercolor pencils and watercolor items that you can watercolor with, okay? Alright. So I'm just trying to blend in, and I'm really, as I'm coloring this, I'm not worried about going outside the lines and stuff. I just want to show you guys really how I use it. So this one, I've taken the Prima color pencil with the wink of Stella, and I am blending and moving the color with that. Now, a lot of people, buy all the different colors of the Wink of Stella or the Spectrum Noirs, which are both in the boutique. But what I like to do with them is what we're doing here, which is taking the color, laying it down, and then moving it around with it. Not only does it move the color, but it creates almost like a natural sparkle within the picture itself. And it's a shame because, like, even while I'm drawing it right now, I wish you guys could see all the sparkle. I'm going to try and hold it up to you to see it once it's all done, but I'm telling you, if you try this technique and it works with any color you lay down. You go to move it with that Wink of Stella or that Spectrum Noir, and you go to tilt it in the light, it just gives it a really pretty shimmer. And then all you do is clean it off on a tissue, and your brush is ready to go. And I was trying to hold it with my camera, but alas, the sparkle didn't show up for me. But it's very subtle, but it's beautiful. It really is. And I'm just writing up above it which one those are. So right now we're going to use the Prima Oil Pastels. And when I use the oil pastels for my palette, I use a laminated white piece of paper. And it's really cool. You just scribble your color right onto the laminate. And then using the brush, you just grab the color and add it to the watercolor paper. And you can, add color. To remove color, you just want to use the tissue like I did before, like if you had too much water on it. If you tap it with the tissue, it'll remove some of the color that you've laid down. And then what I'm doing with it is all the same. So in the middle, I try to get it darker there. And they're the flaps or the pieces of the flower that are curving over. I try to make sure to go underneath and do a little bit darker there. Right now, just putting a little yellow where the stamen are. And then we're going to take the green and fill in the flower, the leaves on that. And potentially with the Prima Oil Pastels, you could color directly on to the item that you're trying to color as well. It's just that it's not a very sharp point. So I would do, if I'm doing direct to paper with the actual stick, I would do a background. Alright. And then it's just super easy to wipe up. Done. Alright, so for the next one, I wanted to show you how to use your distress inks as watercolor. A lot of different people on YouTube do this. And what I like about the oil pastels, the distress inks, is even if you're not the greatest colorist in the world, you can do this, okay? All you need is to practice with the actual water brush itself. And if you have that paper towel or tissue with you, if you put too much water, dab it up. If you put too much color, wet it a little bit, dab it with your tissue. And all you do is color it in. If you want to try and get fancy, anywhere where, especially with a stamp like this, where it looks like it's a darker sketching, you put a little bit more color there. That creates the shadow. Leave the rest of it light. Done. I'm telling you. I believe everybody can do this, okay? I want you guys to get those distress inks out and add some water. Get the painting. Alright. So I just put a little bit of the, I believe it's a spice marmalade. And I'm doing my centerpiece, that little stamen with that. And then really, that particular flower is done. And that's why I like the laminate sheet of white, because all you do, take your tissue or your paper towel and it wipes right up. And you can reuse it and keep reusing it. Love it. Alright, so I wanted to grab my Zig Clean Color Real Brush. They make this so difficult. These are my secret lovers. I love these markers. They are in the boutique as well. As you can see here, what I do, same thing I told you with all the other ones. Lay the darkest color in where you would think your shadows would go, and then pull with the water the color down to the other area of the petal. And it helps to just work one petal at a time. You don't have to worry about coloring the whole thing. Just start in one spot and start bringing color. Start light and then add color to it as you go. That way, you know, if you go too dark too fast, it's sometimes harder to go backwards, but if you start with a light hand, you can always add color on top of itself. That's one of the great things about watercolor. Once a section dries, you can always go back to it, add a little bit more color, and, you know, create beautiful layers. So here we're doing the same thing, just laying down, you know, the color on the leaves. And the one thing I didn't do on this video, on certain paper or cardstock, you can even do the tip to tip technique to blend colors that normally wouldn't blend well together. I really love it. Oh, I wanted to show you real quick here. This is how you can blend it out with the Spectrum Noir. It works the same exact way. Look at that. It looks like it's darker and then it's slowly fading out. And I could have taken that little piece of green up even further. I love the Spectrum Noir, the clear one. I'm telling you, you guys, you're going to have so much fun. Now this one here is a small palette that I actually got from the boutique. I want to say it was like a couple of years ago. And I like this palette. It's good for traveling because it is small. But I will say I very rarely pull this one out. Pretty much out of all the watercolor stuff I have, the Zig markers, the oil pastels are probably the ones I would reach for the most. Even though I do like my distress inks and watercoloring with those, it's something about the Zig markers and the oil pastels. I really do enjoy coloring with those. But that's the best part about this stuff, is finding something and, you know, trying something new. You won't know if you like it unless you try it. And the best part is most of this stuff is in our boutique, so you can definitely click over there. I will try to put the direct links down below in the comments below, but there's always the link to the Facebook page itself or to the .com store. So now I'm going to pull out a little bit. I showed you the traditional, the distress inks, the Zigs, color pencils. We got the watercolor Prima pencils, and we used our water brush and the Spectrum Noir and Wink of Stella. Now I'm going to show you one more possible way to watercolor. So I'm laying down some vintage photo, the Spice Marmalade, and peeled paint. Okay, now hindsight being 2020, I probably wouldn't have picked these three colors because orange and green go to brown anyway, so it's not going to give me the big distinguished, or not distinguished, it's not going to give me like a great blending of different colors. It's almost going to be like it's muted together and it creates this really pretty marbled orange but brown. And all I'm doing here is laying down the cardstock into the pile of water, the colored, you know, the watercolor from the distress inks, drying it with my heat tool, and then pressing it down again, creating layers with just, you know, some water and distress inks. And you'll see, like, there's a lot of people on YouTube who do this. Sometimes they'll do all this coloring and then they'll spritz it with the water, because with distress ink you reactivate it once it's dry with water. So you spritz some water on it, lay down a paper towel, and when you pull it up, it creates a great water effect. So thank you guys for joining me. I hope I've maybe answered some questions or showed you a different way to use some materials you may already have, or maybe you'll be interested in trying something new. So if you guys have any questions, just leave them down in the comments below. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share, and I will see you guys with our next video, which will be next Tuesday. Have a happy Thanksgiving, you guys.